Everybody hold on to your hat out there. Fast and Loud is no more.
People see something like this in a field, and they think it's a piece of garbage. But the guys like us, this thing is gold.
The real reason why Fast and Loud came to an end might just blow your mind. The show had us all on the edge of our seats, captivated by Richard Rawlings' daring automotive adventures.
That deal?
Hell yeah.
All right, man.
I'll take it, man. We bought this thing for 300 grand, and I just turned it around for 4. Whoa! My beer assistant's gonna have to up his game.
But just when we thought we knew everything there was to know, a startling revelation emerges. The curtain has been pulled back, and what lies beneath is nothing short of explosive.
That's worth like 50 grand. And because you're with me and you ain't got any insurance, I'm gonna be the one that pays.
What exactly transpired in those final moments that led to the show's sudden and seemingly sudden ending? And as we reflect on the aftermath of it all, what does this mean for us as fans and for the future of shows we've grown to love? The end of an era. Fast and Loud, a show that once revived interest, found itself sputtering toward its cancellation in May 2020. The final seasons painted a stark picture. Ratings were not just slipping, they were tumbling. There's a tale here, a tale loaded with drama, but not the kind that keeps viewers glued to their screens. Instead, the behind-the-scenes conflicts became a noisy distraction, drowning out the excitement that initially drew fans in. I'm talking about controversies that sent shockwaves through the production team, turning what used to be a collaborative haven into a battleground of egos. So what really happened? But before we dive into that, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Departures and internal conflicts. Let's dive into one of the most talked about controversies in the world of reality television, the departure of key cast members that not only raised eyebrows but also fueled rampant speculation about the working atmosphere. One of the most significant exits from the show was that of Aaron Kaufman, the lead mechanic and an undeniable fan favorite. You might remember Kaufman as the guy who brought a unique flair to automotive restoration, turning even the most tired classics into magnificent machines. So, what happened behind closed doors that led to his shocking departure? Well, Kaufman revealed that he had some serious personal and professional disagreements with Richard Rawlings, the charismatic face of the show. To put it simply, Kaufman felt stifled creatively. Can you imagine being in a job where your imagination doesn't run free? That's precisely how Kaufman described his experience as he grappled with the show's demands, which he believed were limiting his innovative spirit. This was no ordinary exit. It marked a pivotal turning point for Fast and Loud, as Kaufman had been a cornerstone of the show's success since the very beginning. His mechanical genius and infectious energy had captured audiences far and wide, making his departure all the more shocking. But wait, there's more. The drama didn't stop with Kaufman. Following his exit, the battleground that was Fast and Loud saw 2 more cast members, Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, leave the team amid a swirling storm of controversy. This wasn't just a case of people moving on, it was a situation loaded with emotion and lessons about kindness and loyalty. The catalyst for their departures revolved around a rather heartfelt incident. Picture this: a fan with cystic fibrosis, eager to take pictures with one of Rawlings' iconic cars, stood there filled with excitement. When the moment arrived, what should have been a joyful interaction turned sour. Rawlings, perhaps having a challenging day himself, ordered the fan away, and not in the most courteous of terms either. The situation quickly escalated, but Smith and Butler chose to intervene. Instead of siding with their boss, they allowed the fan to snap those precious pictures, a small act that carried profound meaning. But here's the kicker: their act of kindness didn't sit well with Rawlings. Instead of commending them for showing compassion, he terminated their employment on the spot. Talk about a plot twist. The fallout from this incident painted Rawlings in an unfavorable light and raised some serious questions about his treatment of fans, and yes, even his staff. Was this how he operated behind the scenes? Public backlash and the saga surrounding Rawlings took a dramatic turn as public sentiment shifted, resulting in a backlash that few could have predicted. As fans began to voice their criticisms and disillusionment, the consequences became far-reaching, ultimately shaping the show's fate and altering the landscape of reality television forever. A key factor in this upheaval was the context of cancel culture, a growing phenomenon that has seen individuals and brands facing intense scrutiny over public opinions and actions. In the case of Rawlings, the storm brewed when several controversies erupted following notable departures from the show, which many spectators attributed to Rawlings' handling of sensitive issues. It wasn't just a matter of television antics, there were deeper emotional stakes involved, particularly when a fan's serious illness was at the forefront. The disappointment cut deep. Viewers who once saw Rawlings as a larger-than-life enthusiast of all things automotive now view him through a lens of failure to empathize. This damaging narrative spread quickly across social media like wildfire, fueling even deeper discontent. Video clips, tweets, and posts highlighting the controversy began to bubble up, creating an echo chamber where negativity thrived and criticism was amplified. Fans were no longer passive viewers, they were now active participants in a conversation that rapidly turned sour. The decline in viewership didn't go unnoticed. Networks and sponsors became alert to the shifting tides and began to reassess their ties to the show. Relationships that had been bolstered by Rawlings' charisma and charm faced scrutiny. Advertisers, who once saw a golden opportunity in aligning with a popular face, started to tread cautiously. This palpable fear affected their willingness to invest in the show, leading to uncertainty about its future. As the controversies expanded, audiences began echoing sentiments of disillusionment that rippled out beyond the Fast and Loud universe. The once fervent community of car enthusiasts and reality TV lovers grew wary of shows that didn't prioritize authentic connections over spectacle. The backlash against Rawlings sparked discussions about accountability in the entertainment industry and opened the door for broader conversations about how shows handle sensitive issues. Now let's move on to the next issue that has led fans disappointed and made lose trust in Rawlings. Gas Monkey Bar and Grill Scandal. Let's talk about one of Rawlings' most notable ventures, Gas Monkey Bar and Grill. Yes, the name is instantly recognizable, and while it might evoke images of lively nights filled with good food and even better friends, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. The establishment found itself at the center of a scandal that had both consumers and the media buzzing. A sting operation exposed a shocking practice within the bar's walls. Premium liquors were being swapped out for much cheaper alternatives. Now, can you imagine how customers would feel if they found out the high-end whiskey they believed they were sipping on was, in reality, a low-grade knockoff? That's the kind of betrayal that can ruin a reputation overnight. Rawlings faced public outrage as patrons questioned the integrity of a place that was supposed to represent the fiery spirit of the Gas Monkey brand. As folks voiced their displeasure, it was clear that this scandal was not going to be brushed aside. An epic fallout began to play out across social media and local news. The scandal was just the beginning of Rawlings' problems. As tensions mounted, his legal woes escalated, leading to an influx of lawsuits concerning his bar operations. The drama kicked in when managing members of Gas Monkey Bar and Grill accused Rawlings of defamation and breaches of contract. Picture this: a high-stakes chess match with accusations flying and reputations on the line, as former allies turned into adversaries. The resulting turmoil stirred up a whirlwind that only added fuel to the fire already blazing around his public image. With every legal battle, the stakes grew higher and Rawlings' persona took a hit. Fans who once idolized his charisma and passion for cars began to question whether the man behind the show was living up to the values he had preached. Was he the cool, laid-back entrepreneur everyone adored, or had the fame gotten to him, leading him down a path of questionable choices? There's something disheartening about watching a beloved figure navigate such tumultuous waters, and fans couldn't help but feel conflicted. Let's not forget how this entire situation highlighted a universal truth. When you elevate your profile in the public eye, the scrutiny grows exponentially. What might have been minor legal disputes for a lesser-known individual quickly spiraled into major headlines for Rawlings. Suddenly, the charming car aficionado was a focal point for critics who dissected every business decision, questioning whether he was truly fit to run such prominent establishments. Now, if you think this is as bad as it gets, just wait for what comes next. Feud with personalities. Richard had not only made a name for himself through his automotive talents, but also through his larger-than-life persona. However, even the most popular figures can find themselves tangled in conflict, and Rawlings was no exception. One of the most talked about feuds during this turbulent time was with none other than Jesse James, a titan in the world of custom motorcycles and a previous collaborator on the show. Now, initially fans celebrated the collaboration between Rawlings and James. They seemed like a dynamic duo, two visionaries carving their paths in the automotive universe. But as is often the case in the world of reality TV, things shifted shifted dramatically. When Rawlings decided to voice his opinions publicly, tension skyrocketed. Rawlings made some comments that rubbed Jesse the wrong way. What were those comments, you ask? Well, let's just say that the friction escalated more than anyone could have anticipated. Things took a rather petty turn when James retaliated in a manner that would leave a lasting impression. He dumped a truckload of horse manure right on Rawlings' driveway. Can you imagine the shock? This stunt wasn't just an act of defiance. It was captured on camera, shared far and wide, and quickly went viral. Suddenly, what had been an industry conflict morphed into a social media spectacle, grabbing headlines and views alike. If they were aiming for a dramatic statement, they certainly achieved that. But just like any good story, this incident turned the public's perception on its head. Jesse James, once hailed as a charming and talented figure in the industry, began to shift in the eyes of fans. What had been intrigue surrounding a creativity-driven partnership now became associated more with childish antics and petty drama. Fans had once admired him for his skills, but the manure incident painted a different picture, one that was punctuated by immaturity and conflict rather than creativity and craftsmanship. Interestingly, this feud highlighted something rather profound about celebrity dynamics in the automotive world. One moment you can be riding high, collaborating with equally influential names, and the next, you're caught in scandal that taints your reputation. It's a potent reminder that in the entertainment business, relationships are fragile, and public perceptions can shift with the flick of a camera. But with Rawlings at the center of the storm, how did he respond to this dramatic act? Surprisingly, he didn't let this slap in the face deter him from his path. Richard remained committed to his brand and showcased resilience amid the tension. It's not easy to take a hit like that, but he took the high road, channeling his energy into his work at Gas Monkey Garage, even if he had to navigate the rocky waters stirred up by his feud with James. The world of car restorations can already be competitive, and when you throw in the reality TV aspect, the stakes rise higher still. The need to maintain a positive public image while balancing relationships with other personalities can become a delicate tightrope act. This feud with Jesse James not only showcased the potential pitfalls associated with fame and creativity, but also turned the spotlight back on the characters involved. Reality versus on-screen drama. Many fans began to voice concerns, pointing fingers at the production team for leaning into drama more than authentic restoration. Storylines started to resemble a well-worn script, with drama that felt more rehearsed than real. Critics and dedicated viewers alike expressed discontent, fearing the show's original charm was being traded for sensationalism on screen. One major consequence of this shift was a sense of stagnation. Repetitive storylines started to infiltrate episodes, leaving audiences disillusioned. Gone were the thrilling moments of creativity and triumph. For many, they felt replaced with predictable arcs and contrived conflicts. The producers seemed to prioritize high-stakes drama over the exciting intricacies of car restoration, making the process feel less real and more like a soap opera. Let me remind you of some of the incidents that have impacted its reputation. The Pontiac Firebird incident. One of the most sensational controversies from the show revolves around a particular episode that showcased vehicles touted as original Pontiac Firebird prototypes. The episode unveiled these cars as monumental discoveries, dripping with promise and narrative flair. They were presented as exceptionally rare, one-of-a-kind models, each ostensibly valued at an eye-popping $325,000. As you can imagine, this portrayal sparked a wildfire of excitement among viewers, particularly Pontiac aficionados, who saw these cars as major milestones in the realm of automotive history. However, the jubilation was short-lived. Almost immediately after the episode aired, a chorus of skepticism erupted among car experts and enthusiasts. They eagerly dissected the claims made in the show, quickly pointing out that these so-called unique prototypes were, in fact, merely early production models. While still worthy of interest and admiration, these vehicles lacked the historical significance that had been originally implied. This discrepancy was no small matter. It drew a thick line between genuine automotive restoration and what many perceived as sensationalized storytelling that aimed more to entertain than to inform. The audience reactions were swift, cutting, and intense. Many viewers felt a deep sense of betrayal, a punch to the gut, as they realized they had been misled by the show's over-the-top portrayal of these vehicles. The trust that many had placed in Fast and Loud began to crumble. The thrill that initially surrounded the discovery quickly morphed into disappointment, leaving a bitter taste as fans processed their disillusionment. This incident served to amplify a growing concern about the authenticity of what they were consuming on their screens. The revelation that these iconic cars had been misrepresented hit hard, damaging the show's credibility significantly. Fans didn't just stop questioning this singular instance, they began to scrutinize other claims made throughout the series. This growing skepticism cast a long shadow over the show's brand, igniting doubts about whether the restorations they showcased were genuinely that or merely exaggerations crafted for entertainment value. The Dodge Dart. One incident that stands out during this bizarre evolution was the infamous Shark Cat episode. It showcased a modified Dodge Dart that became a focal point of controversy. Rather than highlighting the riveting journey of fixing a problematic vehicle, the production team appeared to gloss over serious technical issues the car faced. This was a critical misstep that left fans baffled and questioning the integrity of what they were watching. Imagine this: a car that's supposed to be undergoing significant repairs is suddenly back in pristine condition overnight. As any car enthusiast knows, that's just not how things work in the real world. Such misrepresentation drew eyebrows and raised skepticism among the audience. Fans felt cheated. They were entitled to see the nitty-gritty of the process, warts and all. Instead, they witnessed a portrayal that made it seem like complex repairs could happen in a matter of hours. This discrepancy between reality and entertainment is where viewer trust started to fragment. With trust in the show's portrayal of the decline, many loyal followers felt a growing disconnection from the cast and crew they had come to admire. What was once an endearing journey showcasing skill and artistry had morphed into something that felt more like fiction than a reflection of automotive passion. This reality gap was more than just a nuisance. It risked alienating a dedicated audience that had tuned in to see genuinely riveting automotive challenges unfold. And this incident wasn't the only one that impacted the reputation. The Knight Rider replica episode. Fast and Loud dedicated an entire episode to building an elaborate replica of Kit, the legendary car from the beloved television series Knight Rider. You'd think that with a hefty budget behind this project, fans would be thrilled. Instead, disappointment flooded in as many viewers felt the episode felt more scripted than genuine, leading to a sense of disillusionment among longtime fans. What really irked the audience was watching Richard Rawlings, who is usually all about hands-on work, spending more time on personal escapades than actually rolling up his sleeves to work on the car. Talk about a bait and switch. Viewers had tuned in expecting to witness real automotive craftsmanship and restoration, but instead found themselves stuck in a scripted narrative that felt disconnected from the very essence of what made the show a hit in the first place. This departure didn't just rub fans the wrong way, it alienated them, leaving them feeling like they were watching a different show altogether. The backlash was swift and critical. Fans didn't hold back. They quickly labeled the episode as fake and began voicing their frustrations openly. Social media was buzzing with complaints as viewers articulated their dismay at the show's shift away from authentic car restoration to what seemed like staged drama. The growing consensus was alarming. Fast and Loud, in their quest for entertainment, appeared to have abandoned its roots and the genuine artistry that once defined it. This change reinforced the disenchantment many felt. It was no longer a show centered on cars and craftsmanship, but rather a playful distraction masked as automotive content. The implications of this shift in focus couldn't be overlooked. For enthusiasts, authenticity and honesty in automotive restoration aren't just buzzwords, they're core values of car culture. The perception that Fast and Loud had devolved into a scripted drama, neglecting the real mechanical artistry that viewers craved, left a bitter aftertaste. As the episode aired and criticism mounted, fans were left wondering if the show could return to its original premise, or if they'd have to settle for more theatrics that lacked true substance. But despite all these problems, Richard Rawlings had a perspective that stood apart from the rest when it came to the cancellation of the show. Let me break it down for you. Rawlings speaks out. Following the unexpected end of the show, Rawlings opened up in a revealing interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, allowing fans a glimpse behind the curtain into his reality. This detailed exploration dives into the pivotal points from his interview, shedding light on his yearning for personal growth and the restrictive nature of the contractual obligations he faced with the Discovery Channel. In his raw and insightful dialogue on the Joe Rogan Experience, Rawlings laid bare the factors that contributed to the cancellation of Fast and Loud. One of the most striking revelations was was his pervasive sense of being stuck in a rut. Rawlings spoke candidly about how the stringent demands of sustaining a successful television show had stifled his creativity, making him feel detached from the innovative spirit that initially fueled his passion for automotive restoration. Each episode began to blend together, dulling his enthusiasm and turning the creative process into a monotonous grind. He described the weight of these expectations, like an anchor pulling him deeper into waters he no longer wished to navigate. As time went on, his loss of passion became increasingly palpable. No longer did projects spark joy, they instead felt like obligatory tasks. The repetitive nature of certain episodes made it challenging for him to maintain that spark of excitement and inspiration that once characterized his work. Rawlings' frustration was evident. He missed the thrill of exploring new challenges and ideas within the automotive universe. This journey should have been exhilarating, but instead it increasingly felt like a chore. A crucial theme that resonated throughout the interview was his deep longing for creative freedom. It became crystal clear that the contractual constraints imposed by the Discovery Channel were a significant source of his dissatisfaction. He expressed a desire to break free from those limitations, to dive headfirst into projects that inspired him. Rawlings was yearning to stretch his creative wings, and as he articulated his struggles, it was obvious that the decision to step away from the show was motivated by more than just a need for change. It was a quest for autonomy, but the toll wasn't just on his career, it seeped into his personal life as well. The pressures of running a successful reality show left Rawlings feeling overwhelmed by constant expectations and constraints. He recounted grappling with stress, realizing he had to prioritize self-reflection and personal growth during this significant transitional phase. This wasn't just a moment of career change, it was a deep and necessary journey toward rediscovering who he was outside of the show's spotlight. Contractual limitations. Richard Rawlings' frustrations regarding his career were also heavily tied to the restrictive nature of his contract with the Discovery Channel. The specific clauses outlined in this agreement didn't just limit his creative expression, they extended to his ability to engage with fans, leaving an unmistakable mark on his journey. Let's talk about social media. Rawlings opened up about feeling trapped by the restrictions that prevented him from sharing anything related to his automotive work without prior approval from Discovery. Can you imagine that? This meant he couldn't simply post a picture of a freshly restored car or share updates on exciting new projects he was diving into. As a result, Rawlings felt increasingly detached from his audience. The very fans who supported him and fueled his passion were left in the dark, and that gap hollowed out his connection to them. But it didn't stop there. Another critical component of his contract included a daunting rule against making negative comments about Discovery Channel or its programming. This meant that if Rawlings felt frustrated or had honest criticisms to share, he was effectively silenced. If he dared to breach this clause, he risked incurring heavy fines. It's hard to imagine the weight of those restrictions. He felt stifled, unable to voice legitimate concerns without worrying about repercussions. He was caught in a web where every word mattered, turning his candid nature into a carefully curated facade. Beyond social media and commentary, this restrictive agreement grew even more suffocating. The limitations imposed by the contract extended to Rawlings' ability to control his own narrative as a public figure. He expressed disappointment over the rights he had of relinquished regarding his media representation. In essence, he'd signed away his ability to promote himself authentically, a genuine fear that fostered regret. How could you thrive when you couldn't share your true self with the world? These contractual limitations weren't just personal hurdles for Rawlings, they bore wider implications for his brand development as well. As he looked to expand into new ventures, think YouTube channels and other creative automotive projects, he realized that clinging to Discovery would only hinder his potential for growth and innovation. The constraints felt like an anchor, keeping him moored when he needed to sail into uncharted waters. Rawlings' journey under these circumstances showcases a battle not only for creative freedom, but for the very essence of who he is as a creator and an automotive enthusiast. But what do you think? Will he break free from these shackles and reclaim his narrative? Or will he continue to grapple with the limitations imposed upon him? One thing is certain, the desire for creative liberation runs deep, and the story of Richard Rawlings is far from over.